The silver blade sliced through the creature's neck just as the church bell struck 11:30. Cale Voss rolled behind the overturned bus, demon blood sizzling on his coat sleeve. 30 minutes until midnight. 30 minutes before the first rule kicked in, and this hunt became a death sentence. "Riven, status report!" he barked into his radio, ejecting the spent magazine from his modified pistol. The bullets were custom-made, each one packed with iron shavings and blessed salt. "3 more heading your way from the east." Riven's voice crackled through the static. "Big ones, Cale. The kind that eat buildings for breakfast." Cale slammed a fresh clip home and checked his gear. Salt pouch on his left hip, full. Silver throwing knives, 6 remaining. Iron chains wrapped around his right arm, blessed and ready. The leather book containing the 5 rules hung from his belt, worn from years of consultation. Rule 1. Never hunt alone after midnight. Rule 2. Salt circles must be perfect or they fail completely. Rule 3. Demons cannot cross running water. Rule 4. Silver burns them, iron binds them. Rule 5. A tracker's blood on demon skin kills both. The ground shook as something massive approached. Cale peered around the bus and swore under his breath. The first demon stood 12 feet tall, its hide like molten obsidian. Steam rose from its body in the cool night air. Behind it came 2 more, smaller but faster, with too many teeth and claws that sparked against the asphalt. "Time to dance," Kyle muttered, pulling the pin from a salt grenade. He hurled it over the bus and vaulted onto the roof in one fluid motion. The grenade exploded in a white cloud, and the demon's roars of pain echoed off the empty buildings. Kyle landed on the big one's back, driving his silver blade deep between what might have been shoulder blades. The creature bucked like a rabid bull, but Cale held on, twisting the blade deeper. Silver burned demon flesh like acid, and the smell was worse than a tire fire. The demon spun, trying to shake him loose, but Cale had been doing this for 8 years. Balance came as naturally as breathing. One of the smaller demons leaped at him, claws extended. Cale yanked his blade free and slashed across its face in the same motion. It dropped, writhing and steaming. The big demon finally threw him off, sending him tumbling across the street. Kyle rolled to his feet, already moving. The second small demon charged, and he met it head-on with an iron chain. The links wrapped around its neck, and it dropped instantly, bound by metal that was like poison to its kind. "That's 2 down," he called into his radio. The large demon recovered faster than expected. It charged with surprising speed, and Cale barely dove aside as it crashed through a storefront window. Glass exploded outward, but the demon was already turning for another attack. Cale's watch read 11:45, 15 minutes. "Riven, I need that backup now. On my way!" 60 seconds. The demon's next charge was more calculated. It feinted left, then swung a massive arm right. Cale ducked, but the creature's other hand caught him across the chest, sending him flying into a parked car. The metal crumpled around him. Kyle spat blood and checked his weapons. Still had his gun, still had salt, but his ribs were probably cracked. The demon approached slowly now, confident in its advantage. "Big mistake," Coyle said, pulling out his secret weapon. The water balloon looked ridiculous in his hand, but appearances meant nothing in demon hunting. He'd filled it that morning from St. Mary's Fountain, 3 blocks away. The blessing made it holy water, and the fountain's constant flow made it running water. 2 rules in 1 shot. He hurled the balloon at the demon's feet. It burst, and the holy water spread across the asphalt in a thin stream. The demon stepped forward, then jerked back as if it had hit an invisible wall. Running water, even a tiny amount, was an absolute barrier. "Rule 3, you ugly piece of trash," Cale said, raising his pistol. The demon snarled and tried to circle around the small stream, but Cale was ready. He fired 6 shots in rapid succession, each bullet finding its mark. Iron and salt burned into demon flesh, and the creature staggered. A motorcycle engine roared down the street. Riven pulled up beside the water stream, her own weapons ready. She was small and quick, with hair dyed electric blue, and arms covered in protective tattoos. Each ink design had been blessed by a different priest, creating a walking suit of holy armor. "You look terrible," she said, dismounting. "Feel worse. Help me finish this thing." They moved together with practiced coordination. Riven threw a salt net over the demon's head while Kale circled to its back. The creature thrashed, but the blessed salt burned everywhere it touched. Kale climbed up again, this time driving his blade straight down into what he hoped was its brain. The demon collapsed, its body already beginning to dissolve into ash and sulfur smoke. Kale's watch read 11:58. "Close one," Riven said, helping him down from the dissolving corpse. "Too close. If we'd hit midnight with this thing still moving. But we didn't. That's what matters." They walked back toward their motorcycles, stepping carefully around the small stream of holy water. Even with the demons dead, rules were rules. Kale had seen too many good trackers die because they got careless about the details. "Contact from headquarters," Riven said, checking her phone. 3 more demons spotted downtown. Big cluster. Kyle looked at his watch. 11:59. "We wait until tomorrow night. Rule 1 isn't negotiable." "I know. Just thought you should hear about it." At exactly midnight, both of their phones buzzed with an emergency alert. Then another. Then 10 more in rapid succession. "What the hell?" Riven said, reading the messages. Kyle's blood went cold as he read over her shoulder. Demon sightings across the entire city. Not 3 or 4, but dozens, maybe hundreds, and they were all moving toward the same location. "The cathedral," he said quietly. "That's where they're heading. But why?" Kale thought about the old stories, the ones the veteran trackers whispered about in bars after too many drinks. Stories about demon gatherings, about summoning rituals that could tear holes between worlds. "Because something big is coming through," he said. "Something that makes tonight's hunt look like practice." They rode back to headquarters in silence, both thinking the same thing. Tomorrow night was going to be the fight of their lives, and if they failed, the rules wouldn't matter anymore. Nothing would. Headquarters sat in an old firehouse, converted and reinforced with every protection the church could provide. Salt lines in every doorway, running water through pipes built into the walls, iron mesh in the windows, and silver inlays in the concrete. It was the one place in the city where trackers could rest without watching their backs. Kale pushed through the main doors and immediately felt the tension in the air. 24 trackers filled the common room, all talking at once. Maps covered every table, marked with red pins showing demon sightings. "Kale!" Dr. Hayes called from across the room. The old man was the closest thing they had to a commanding officer, though nobody really gave orders in demon tracking. Too many variables, too many ways to die if someone else made the wrong call. Kale and Riven made their way through the crowd. Every tracker in the city seemed to be here, from veterans like Marcus Thane with his scarred hands and permanent limp, to rookies like Zara Finch who still jumped at every shadow. "What's the situation?" Kyle asked. Dr. Hayes spread a large map across the table. Red pins clustered around the cathedral like a rash. 47 confirmed sightings in the last 2 hours, all moving towards St. Augustine's. The pattern is too organized to be random. "Summoning circle?" asked Marcus, leaning on his cane. His left leg had been mangled in a demon hunt 5 years ago, but he refused to retire. "Has to be. Question is, what are they trying to bring through?" Zara raised her hand tentatively. "What if it's not what they're bringing through, but what they're trying to let out?" The room went quiet. Every tracker knew the stories about the cathedral's basement, about the things the church had locked away in the early days of demon hunting. Things too dangerous to kill, too powerful to release. "The vault," Riven said quietly. Dr. Hayes nodded grimly. 7 sealed chambers, each one containing something that could end the world if it got loose. The demons must know we can't hunt them after midnight. They're planning to break the seals while we're forced to wait. So we don't wait, said Marcus. We hit them now, before midnight tomorrow. With what army? Kyle asked. There are 24 of us, maybe 30 if we call in everyone from the surrounding counties. Against hundreds of demons? That's suicide. So is letting them open the vault, Marcus shot back. The argument that followed was loud and heated. Some trackers wanted to attack immediately. Others preferred to evacuate the city and call in the military. A few suggested contacting other chapters worldwide, though help wouldn't arrive for days. Cale studied the map while the others argued. The demon positions formed a rough circle around the cathedral, but there were gaps, patterns that suggested coordination, strategy. These weren't mindless monsters following instinct. Something was directing them. There's a leader, he said, cutting through the arguments. Look at the positioning. They're not just gathering randomly. Someone's organizing this. Dr. Hayes examined the map more closely. You're right. The formation is too precise. But demon hierarchies are fluid. Leaders change constantly through violence and dominance displays. Not this time, Kyle said. This took planning. Weeks, maybe months. Whatever's running this show has been preparing. Riven pointed to a cluster of pins near the cathedral's north entrance. Heavy concentration here. If there's a leader, that's where it'll be. Great, said Marcus. Cut off the head, the body dies. Classic strategy. Except we still can't hunt after midnight, Zara pointed out. Even if we find their leader, Rule 1 still applies. The room fell silent again. The rules weren't suggestions or guidelines. They were absolute laws backed by forces that even veteran trackers didn't fully understand. Break them, and death was certain. There might be a way, Dr. Hayes said slowly. Rule 1 states, never hunt alone after midnight. But it doesn't say anything about hunting in groups. That's semantics, Marcus said, and demons don't care about word games. Actually, they do, said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Elena Cross enter the room. She was older than anyone present, her hair white and her face lined with decades of demon hunting. Most trackers retired or died young. Elena had done neither, making her something of a legend. Elena, Dr. Hayes said with obvious relief. When did you get back? 20 minutes ago. Heard the alerts and came straight here. She walked to the map and studied it for a long moment. This is definitely a coordinated attack, professional grade, and Marcus is wrong about demons and word games. They're bound by rules just like we are. Different rules, but rules nonetheless. What do you mean? Kyle asked. Elena pulled out her own book, far older and thicker than the standard tracker manual. The 5 rules we follow aren't arbitrary. They're part of a compact, an agreement made centuries ago between the church and the forces that govern demon behavior. We follow our rules. They follow theirs. What are their rules? Riven asked. That's the thing. We don't know all of them, but we know some. For instance, they can't enter churches without permission. They can't harm children under certain circumstances. And they can't break major magical barriers while we're actively hunting them. Cale felt a spark of hope. The vault. It's protected by magical barriers. Exactly. As long as even one tracker is actively hunting demons, those barriers hold. But if we all stop at midnight, the barriers weaken, Dr. Hayes finished. That's why they're coordinating this for after midnight. They need us to stop hunting. So we don't stop, Marcus said. Simple. Not simple at all, Elena replied. Rule 1 exists for a reason. Hunt alone after midnight and you die. No exceptions, no matter how skilled you are. Then we hunt in groups, Kyle said. 2, 3, 4 trackers per team. Elena shook her head. Groups of trackers hunting together after midnight. It's been tried before. The results were worse than hunting alone. Worse how? The rule doesn't just kill the lone hunter, it corrupts them first, turns them into something that hunts their former allies. A group of trackers becomes a group of monsters, still possessing all their skills and knowledge. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They were trapped between two impossible choices. Let the demons open the vault, or break Rule 1 and become monsters themselves. There has to be another way, Zara said quietly. Elena was still studying her ancient book, turning pages carefully. Maybe there is. The rules have exceptions, loopholes. They have to, or the system wouldn't work. Let me find. She stopped at a page near the back, her finger tracing lines of text written in a language Cale didn't recognize. Here, she said, a provision for circumstances of ultimate necessity. If the fate of the world hangs in the balance, a single tracker may volunteer to hunt past midnight, accepting certain death in exchange for a temporary suspension of Rule 1 for all other trackers. Volunteer to die, Marcus said flatly. Volunteer to become something else. The corruption still happens, but it's contained to one person. Meanwhile, the rule is suspended for everyone else until dawn. That's insane, Riven said. It's the only option we have, Elena replied. Someone sacrifices themselves, and the rest of you can hunt freely until sunrise. Enough time to stop whatever the demons are planning. Kyle found himself speaking before he'd consciously made the decision. I'll do it. No, Riven said immediately. Absolutely not. It makes sense. I'm one of the most experienced hunters here. I know the cathedral layout better than anyone, and... He paused, thinking of all the close calls, all the nights he'd barely made it home alive. And I was going to die doing this job eventually anyway. At least this way, it means something. There has to be another way, Dr. Hayes said. Elena closed her book. There isn't. And we're running out of time to prepare. If we're going to do this, we need to move now. The debate continued for another hour, but everyone knew the outcome was inevitable. When dawn broke tomorrow, either the demons would have opened the vault, or Cale Voss would be dead and corrupted, having saved the world in the process. Not the ending he'd imagined for his career, but not the worst one either. As the meeting broke up and trackers began preparing their gear, Riven pulled him aside. There has to be another way, she said again. If there is, we'll find it tonight. But if not... He shrugged. Make sure whatever I become doesn't hurt anyone innocent, okay? She nodded, tears in her eyes. Okay. Outside, the first lights of dawn were beginning to show on the horizon. In 18 hours, Cale would either be dead or something worse than dead. But the vault would remain sealed, and the world would keep turning. It was a good trade. Cale checked his equipment one final time. Extra salt, silver blades sharpened to razor edges, iron chains blessed by 3 different priests, and enough ammunition to fight a small war. His watch read 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes until midnight. 13 minutes until he crossed a line no tracker had ever crossed and lived to tell about it. The cathedral loomed ahead, its Gothic spires cutting into the star-filled sky. Demons moved between the tombstones like living nightmares, their forms barely visible in the moonlight. Cale counted at least 60, maybe more hiding in the shadows of mausoleums and crypts. Team leaders, report. Elena's voice crackled through his earpiece. North team ready, Marcus replied. 8 trackers, full gear. South team ready, came Riven's voice. 6 trackers, perimeter secured. East team ready, said Zara. 7 trackers, holy water reserves topped off. West team ready, reported another voice Cale didn't recognize. 5 trackers, silver net deployed. 26 trackers total, positioned around the cathedral's perimeter. Enough to handle the demon army, but only if Rule 1 was suspended. Only if Cale made his sacrifice. Remember, Elena's voice continued, Wait for Kale's signal. Don't move until you see the flare. And when you do move, hit them fast and hard. We won't get a second chance. Kyle adjusted his radio to a private channel. Riven, you there? I'm here. When this is over, make sure my apartment goes to my sister in Denver. She'll know what to do with my gear. Kale. And take care of yourself, okay? You're the best partner I've ever had. You too. Now stop being sentimental and go save the world. Kale smiled despite everything. Copy that. He switched back to the main channel and began his approach. The demons hadn't noticed him yet, but that would change soon. He pulled out a silver throwing knife and sent it spinning into the nearest creature's back. It dropped without a sound, already dissolving. That got their attention. Roars echoed across the cemetery as dozens of demons turned toward him. Kyle broke into a run, heading straight for the cathedral's main entrance. The plan was simple. Get inside, trigger the loophole by hunting past midnight, then signal the teams to attack. Simple plans were usually the best ones, but also the most likely to go wrong. A demon lunged from behind a headstone, claws extended. Kale slid under its attack and came up with his pistol blazing. Iron bullets punched through its chest, and it collapsed in a heap of ash and sulfur. More demons converged on his position. Too many to fight directly. Kale threw a salt grenade into their midst and sprinted for the cathedral doors while they writhed in burning agony. The massive wooden doors were locked, but Kale had expected that. He pulled out a small explosive charge, blessed and designed specifically for breaking through demon-warded barriers. The blast echoed through the night, and the doors swung open. Kyle's watch read 11:52, 8 minutes. The cathedral's interior was a maze of pews and pillars, all leading toward the altar where stone steps descended into the basement, into the vault. Demons filled the space, some standing guard while others worked frantically at the base of the stairs. They'd already begun the ritual. Kale counted 5 distinct groups, each focused on a different aspect of the summoning. Chalk circles drawn in precise patterns, candles made from something that definitely wasn't wax, and chanting in languages that hurt to hear. He opened fire from the doorway, dropping 3 demons before they realized he was there. The rest turned toward him with expressions of rage and hunger. Perfect. The more attention he drew, the easier it would be for the teams outside. A massive demon, easily the largest he'd ever seen, stepped forward from the group near the altar. This had to be the leader Elena had predicted. It stood nearly 15 feet tall, with armor-like skin and eyes that glowed like molten gold. "Tracker," it said in a voice like grinding stone. "You are early." Kale ejected his spent magazine and slammed in a fresh one. "Yeah, well, I've never been good with schedules." The demon laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You think to stop us? You are alone, and midnight approaches. Soon your precious rules will bind you, and we will finish our work." "See, that's where you're wrong," Kale said, backing toward a pillar for cover. "I'm not planning to follow the rules tonight." The demon's expression changed. For the first time, it looked uncertain. Kale's watch read 11:55, 5 minutes. The leader gestured, and its followers attacked. Kyle dove behind the pillar as claws and teeth filled the air where he'd been standing. He came up firing, silver bullets finding their marks with practiced precision. But there were too many of them, and they were learning his patterns. A smaller demon flanked him, forcing him to abandon his cover. Another attacked from above, dropping from the rafters with a shriek of fury. Kale rolled, fired, rolled again. His movements were fluid and efficient, each shot calculated for maximum damage. But his ammunition wouldn't last forever, and the demons kept coming. 11:57. 3 minutes until he became something other than human. 3 minutes to position himself for maximum impact. He fought his way toward the altar, leaving a trail of dissolving demon corpses behind him. The leader waited for him there, no longer laughing. It had figured out what Kale was planning. "You cannot," it said. The corruption will destroy you." "That's the idea," Kale replied, reloading his last magazine. 11:58. The leader rushed him, moving faster than something that size should be able to. Kale barely got his silver blade up in time to block claws that could have torn him in half. The impact sent him sliding backwards across the stone floor. He rolled to his feet and immediately had to dodge another attack. The leader was strong and fast, but Kale had been fighting demons for 8 years. He knew their patterns, their weaknesses. Silver burned them, iron bound them, salt purified them, and running water stopped them cold. Kale pulled out his last water balloon, this one filled from the baptismal font at the front of the cathedral. Holy water, blessed and flowing, carried in blessed silver. He hurled it at the leader's feet. The balloon burst and holy water spread across the floor. The leader jerked backward, trapped behind the thin stream just as the smaller demon had been earlier that night. 11:59. 1 minute. Kale raised his flare gun and fired through the cathedral's stained glass window. Red light exploded across the night sky, visible for miles, the signal for all teams to attack. "Now," he whispered into his radio. "Hit them now." Outside, gunfire erupted as 26 trackers opened fire simultaneously. Demon roars echoed through the night, but Kale was already focused on his own fight. The leader was trying to circle around the holy water stream, but Kale was ready. He fired his remaining bullets in a tight pattern, forcing the creature back toward the altar. 12 o'clock. Midnight. Kale felt the change immediately. Something cold and alien flooded through his veins, rewriting his DNA one cell at a time. His vision sharpened, his reflexes became superhuman, and his desire to kill everything around him grew overwhelming. But for just a few seconds, he was still himself, still human enough to remember why he was here. He lunged forward, crossing the holy water stream in a single bound. The leader's eyes widened in shock. No human should have been able to make that jump. But Kyle wasn't entirely human anymore. His silver blade found the leader's throat, and he drove it deep with strength that definitely wasn't natural. The demon leader collapsed, its massive body dissolving into ash and shadow. Around the cathedral, the other demons suddenly seemed less coordinated. Without their leader, they fought like individual monsters instead of an organized army. The tracker teams were winning. Cal felt the corruption spreading through his body like ice water. Soon he would be something else entirely. Something that would hunt his former allies with all the skill and knowledge he'd gained over 8 years of demon hunting. But first, he had one more job to finish. The vault entrance stood open, the stone seals already cracking from the interrupted ritual. If he didn't close it now, something far worse than demons might escape. Kale staggered toward the basement stairs, fighting against the alien thoughts trying to take control of his mind. His hands were already changing, fingernails growing into claws, skin taking on an unnatural pallor. The vault was a circular chamber carved from solid rock, with 7 sealed doors arranged around the walls. 3 of the seals were glowing red, their bindings weakened by the ritual. Through the cracks, Kyle could hear things moving in the chambers beyond. He pulled out his emergency kit, silver powder, blessed salt, and a vial of his own blood. The ingredients for a permanent sealing spell, one that would lock the vault for another century. But the spell required a sacrifice, a life freely given to power the magic. Kale was already dying, already becoming something monstrous. His death might as well serve a purpose. He poured the silver powder and salt in a perfect circle around the 7 doors, then opened the vial of blood. As he began to pour it out, completing the spell, he heard footsteps on the stairs behind him. "Kale!" Riven's voice filled with desperation. He turned, and she gasped at what she saw. His transformation was nearly complete now. Claws, fangs, eyes that glowed in the darkness. But somewhere behind those inhuman features, she could still see her partner. "The spell's almost finished," he said, his voice rough and distorted. "Few more minutes and the vault will be sealed permanently. There has to be another way. Come back upstairs. We'll find a cure, A reversal. Kyle shook his head. No cure for what I've become, but I can still choose how this ends. He poured the last of his blood onto the silver circle. Power flowed through the chamber, and the 7 seals flared with brilliant light. The cracks healed, the red glow faded, and the things behind the doors fell silent. The vault was sealed. It's done, he said, collapsing against one of the doors. World safe for another 100 years. Riven knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. Kale. Take care of the new trackers, he said, his voice growing weaker. Teach them the rules. All 5 rules, no exceptions. I will. And Riven? Tell them this story. Tell them what happens when someone breaks Rule 1, but also why it was worth it. She nodded, unable to speak. Kale closed his eyes and let the transformation complete itself. For a moment, something monstrous stirred in the chamber, something with claws and fangs and an inhuman hunger. Then the silver circle flared one final time, and the thing that had been Kale Voss crumbled to dust, his sacrifice powering the seal that would protect the world for generations to come. 6 months later, Riven stood in front of a class of new tracker recruits, Kale's old manual open in her hands. Rule 1, she began, just as he had taught her. Never hunt alone after midnight. Rule 2, salt circles must be perfect, or they fail completely. Rule 3, demons cannot cross running water. Rule 4, silver burns them, iron binds them. Rule 5, a tracker's blood on demon skin kills both. She closed the book and looked at each recruit in turn. These rules exist for a reason. They've kept trackers alive for centuries, and they'll keep you alive too. Follow them absolutely, without exception, and you might just make it to retirement. A young recruit raised her hand. But what about the story? About the tracker who broke Rule 1 and saved the world? Riven smiled sadly. That's a different lesson. Sometimes when everything is on the line, someone has to make the ultimate sacrifice. But it's not something you plan for or hope for. It's something that happens when there's no other choice. Would you have done it? If you'd been in his position? Riven thought about Kale's final moments, about his choice to face corruption and death to save everyone else. I hope I never have to find out, but if the time comes, yeah, I think I would. She opened the manual to the first page again. Now, let's start with demon identification. The first thing you need to know is the difference between a Class 1 manifestation and a Class 2. Outside, the sun was setting over the city. Soon it would be dark, and the demons would emerge from whatever holes they hid in during the day. But the trackers would be ready, armed with silver and salt and iron, protected by rules written in blood and sacrifice. The world was safe, and Kale Voss was the reason why. His name was carved into the memorial wall at headquarters, along with every other tracker who had died in service. But unlike the others, his entry included a special notation. Voluntarily broke Rule 1 to save the world. The vault remains sealed because of his sacrifice. New trackers would read that notation and wonder what it meant. The veteran trackers would tell them the story, and they would understand that sometimes the greatest heroes were the ones who broke the rules, when breaking them was the only way to save everyone else. The 5 rules still stood. They would always stand. But now they carried with them the memory of the tracker, who had proven that even the most absolute laws could be transcended by courage, sacrifice, and love for humanity. Kale Voss had died a monster, but he would be remembered as a hero. And in the end, that was enough.